He was sat, we've already seen Arne Huschenbeth and Mark Tobias. Pascal Viren was kind of sat right in between them. They were the opposite sides of the table, so he had a player on either side, and then we get to Pascal. Just so you know, guys, we are going to get the camera angle. This was all recorded, but the camera angles will get all the better as the draft goes on, as Pascal works his way through these packs, figures out what he wants to be doing. He's got a deranged assistant and a spider spawning he's looking at the front. It's like we're in Innistrad all over again.
Yeah, he has the choice between the assistant, spider spawning. Is there anything else that's... I don't think you first pick just the win.
I mean, the upside of spider spawning, if you can get it all going, is very high indeed. When you make a lot of spiders, that's one of the kind of game-ending plays, and with flashback, potentially you get to end the game twice, I suppose. We will see whether or not he's able to get all the support that he needs. Now, this card, on the face of it, is a green-black card.
Could go in the blue-black deck with a little splash.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Sometimes in the blue-black list, you know, you might mill it with a deranged assistant and just cast the flashback. That absolutely fine also.
Yeah, that was probably the card with the most potential.
So in pack 2 here, we can see that there's Reckless Worm, a Phoenix in there if you want to be doing things in the graveyard. Also, of course, Faithless Looting to set up whatever it is that you might have going on. Fiend Hunter in the mix there if you're looking for white removal. Fume Splitter if you want to be in black. I mean, they look like there might even have been a travel preparation somewhere in the mix there that is being concerned. But like, it looks like we have now got things a little bit neater in there. Faithless Looting, one of the cards that's high in consideration here alongside that Firewing Phoenix.
Yeah, there's no card that really goes with spider spawning. Maybe Faithless Looting is the one card that's the closest to be played with spider spawning in a 4-color.
Yeah, it becomes a bit of a Frankenstein's monster of colors, but
it's not something unusual in this format.
Yeah, there's a lot of payoff for splashing if you've got cards that are doing similar things, albeit in different colors. Vengeful Rebirth is a very powerful way of interacting with the graveyard again. Faith's Fetters, the first really sort of huge removal spell that we've seen from white, though the Fiend Hunter, I guess, also counts to some extent. Unholy Hunger in there if you want to be in black. I mean, Vengeful Rebirth definitely sets you up for doing some cool things in the mid to late game. It's a removal spell that gets back one of your powerful cards from the graveyard.
It goes well with the theme of the first 2 cards.
Yes.
I mean, if you want to play Faithless Looting and Spider Spawning, that's like a red-green graveyard deck. Vengeful Rebirth is the red-green graveyard card.
Pretty much the hallmark of what you want to be doing in a red-green graveyard deck. We'll see how this actually pans out. And it's one of those cards that it does cost a little bit to play. Relentless Worm, just a very solid one in there. Circular Logic and Satyr Wayfinder, an interesting one. If you want to set up the graveyard, the Satyr Wayfinder does achieve that.
So this is, I think this is where he's going. Filling his graveyard. Now he's going to be looking for some payoffs, for more payoffs than just spider spawning.
Yeah, a couple of Reckless Worms have gone by, so the Madness plan doesn't seem to be like it's where it's going to be for Pascal, at least for now, even though, I mean, it's almost as if the plan is more important than the colors, at least for right now.
Like, Red-Green Madness is actually pretty hard to set up. Black-Green is a little easier.
All right, so we continue our way through. Terramorphic Expanse, they're getting pulled to the top very quickly indeed. That one that, the glue that holds together so many decks in this format, and I can easily imagine that it's not going to go super far around the table. Yeah,
being able to look for the swamp, to flashback spider spawning in case he's not running black as one of his main colors.
It also keeps him more open in terms of future picks. If something strange happens and he finds himself with a bomb mid to late pack, or maybe in pack 2 he opens something in other colors, he has a little bit more flexibility there to be able to figure out a way of splashing it. So a Magmore in there, that's just a pretty solid big red creature. I mean, Wickerbow Elder is a card that we've just seen doing good work across the format. It's a sizable body. It can remove problematic enchantments as well. Hissing Iguana is definitely potent if you end up with lots of spiders. And I guess that one of the things, if you're looking to try and create lots of spiders, is making sure you have enough creatures.
Yeah.
And it may well be that 3-drop is a little bit fiddlier to fill than some of the higher drops for later on in the draft.
Yeah, Eidolon could have been an option as well.
Kadama's Reach, that's what we like. If we're going to get greedy, Kadama's Reach is going to mean that it really doesn't feel so greedy anymore. An easy way of making sure you get the lands that you need and not really passing up too much to do it. So things beginning to settle in here a little bit for Pascal Viren. He's beginning to find a little bit of a home.
Yeah, I think he's going to be looking for payoffs.
Yes.
Very soon. A card to splash with Kadama's Reach, with Terramorphic Expanse. He will be able to find a card in any of the 3 other colors he's not already in.
Verdant Eidolon there.
Yeah, Eidolon's pretty good here.
A solid way of generating a little bit of extra mana. And
of any color?
Yeah. Mana fixing, mana ramping, sort of. If you've got enough multicolored spells in your deck, then you can realistically expect to cast it a few times. And it's also a card that if you happen to mill it with the likes of Sato Wayfinder, that you can reasonably expect to get back at some point. You
can fire off a Vengeful Rebirth.
Get 2 cards back.
And then get the Eidolon back, and then, well, anything else.
Hooting Mandrills there getting pulled to the front. That's just a big old body. The Delve meaning that you can cast it a little bit cheaper. Obviously, there's the potential even for Pascal Viren, if he wants to get fancy with his colors, of being able to also use the big Delve in the form of the big zombie fish as well, if he sees it. Another Wickerbow Elder.
Yeah, just a value card. Just a strong body in on a creature.
If it comes along as a 3/3 for 4, that's completely fine. But as soon as you get a chance to actively remove almost any artifact or enchantment from the other side, pumping your Treefolk Shaman, it just becomes very, very potent indeed. So Buried Alive getting picked up here. Buried Alive, one of those cards that can definitely be a setup card that can let you do cool things.
I love Buried Alive. Yeah, I love this card.
Since the first time it came along in the very early days of Magic, that was in Mirage Block, it was able to do good things, and this is a set with more payoffs than most.
And Weatherlights is first printed. And the Skeleton, I like the Skeleton here, right after the Buried Alive pick.
Yep.
And Buried Alive with Spider Spawning. Not that you cannot Buried Alive your Spider Spawning, but
you can only get creatures to put in the graveyard.
Only creatures, but then you have 3 creatures in the graveyard.
Another Verdant Eidolon.
It's a bigger...
Yeah, you want to have creatures in your graveyard so that your Spider Spawning is good. Last pick, Martyr of Sands, we won't worry too much about that one. But
how about Buried Alive the Eidolons?
Yeah. Buried Alive, because he's got a couple of Eidolons now.
Yeah, it's 2. Like for
now,
he
2 of them and a skeleton.
Yeah.
That's a lot of value.
He has 3 targets, pretty much. 3 easy targets. 2 Eidolons and a skeleton. There are more good payoffs for Buried Alive.
Yeah, sometimes you end up Ghoul-steeding it. Sometimes you have one of the actual sort of the rarer threats. And then that's before you even start thinking about if you actually happen to have any kind of reanimation spells.
Yeah.
So one thing that's worth checking out here is first the number of creatures, but also the curve. At the moment, there's not a huge amount going on in the early stages of the game. How big a worry that is as yet a little unclear. There's plenty of time to pick up things to fit in those spots.
Also, he's not actually red. He has 1 Faceless Looting, 1 Vengeful Rebirth, and Iguanon that can potentially be in the sideboard because it's not exactly his plan at this point. I think he plans to go big, and Iguanon is a good card, but if you can't play it under 3, or it might not be your main plan.
Yeah, we know that he's green. We know that he can splash very easily.
Yep.
So right now, the world is very much Pascal Viren's oyster as he opens up this pack 2. If he finds a great white card as the best card in the pack and doesn't really have good options, he can move in and it won't cost him in the slightest.
Like if he finds, for example, an Artisan of Kozilek, he starts to have combos. As in, he can Buried Alive with Artisan of Kozilek, he can Vengeful Rebirth the Artisan, it's 9 damage. And there are ways to... imagine this. He Buried Alives the 2 Eidolons and Artisan. He goes Vengeful Rebirth, get the Artisan back and the 2 Eidolons. And then with the Eidolons, he can cast the Artisan.
All right, I'm in. I'm sold. Let's do this. 1 Artisan on Kozilek. Next pack. I want to see it.
Yeah. It's an uncommon, right?
Yeah. There's a Hooting Mandrills. There's an Unlock's Crusher. Canker Abomination's pretty solid. Disrupting Shoal there. Not exactly what you're looking for. Young Pyromancer taking you more in a spells route rather than creatures for spider spawning, but
the Phoenix is also a pretty good card here. It's
another card we can bury alive.
Yeah, yeah.
Though at some point the mana gets a little bit fiddly there.
But 4/2 flying for 4 is
it's definitely of interest. Yep. So at the moment, Pascal Viren is basically playing Buried Alive Tribal, as far as we can tell.
Well, I don't know if he actually plans to play Buried Alive, but that's the card I really, really like. So I would pick a second one anytime I can. Firewing
Phoenix was the pick up there. And it's just that there's so many graveyard interactions that Buried Alive is almost tutor for 3 cards.
Yeah.
Visions from Beyond might be a little bit of a stretch. Archaeomancer. Fauna Shaman. All right, this is interesting. This means that there can be slightly more reliable setup of getting the right cards get the right creatures in the graveyard. I mean, when you've got Eidolons and you've got a Fauna Shaman, search up your gold cards, get back your Eidolons every time you cast them.
You need a gold creature though. Maybe the elf, the Persist elf or 2. That's a multicolored card.
Yeah, I mean you just want to have one that you can easily cast if you need. Yeah. Oh, this is getting complicated, but in a very exciting way.
And this is exactly what you expect from Ultimate Master Draft. You have so many different ways, different paths you can take during the draft, and if you know most of the cards, you know which ones you want to be seeing.
All right, so we've got some Umbras, a Spider Umbra, a Snake Umbra going along here. Basking Root Wallow, which obviously plays kind of nicely with a Fauna Shaman. What else do we have that's being picked out here? Looks like Snake Umbra is currently an interesting pick. Seismic Assault. I mean, I must admit, I kind of like Basking Root Wallows in general, just to have somewhere in the mix. I mean, especially once you start doing things with Fauna Shaman. But Snake Umbra here, card drawing, not something that necessarily you get too much of in these colors.
I actually like Seismic Assault.
Yeah?
Like, he has ways to cast it in the form of Eidolon. Like, the red is not that hard to cast. And with Groundkeeper.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe he gets Life from the Loam at some point.
Just building all the combos in at the same time. Anger seems like a fantastic one, especially with a Fauna Shaman to work with, so that you can make sure that you can get it into the graveyard good and easily. A relatively unexciting body if you have to actually cast it, but if you're planning on discarding it in order to be able to search up another creature, and all of your creatures having haste, it can potentially be a big problem for many opponents. This is it's just such a cool set when you have all of these unforeseen, well, presumably foreseen to some extent by R&D, but sort of unfound synergies when you combine together these cards from across the whole history of Magic.
Oh, Vengevine, that's...
Wow. All right. Oof. Vengevine, now we are talking. I like where this is going a great deal. I mean, Survival of the Fittest, Basking Root Wallow, Vengevine, that was a legacy deck.
That was a legacy deck that didn't last very long because it was too good. It was Survival of the Fittest was banned in Legacy.
Yep.
Right after this deck was out. Because for 2 mana, you just win the game. Pretty much.
Basking Root Wallow, all of a sudden, the first one goes up in value a little bit now for Pascal Viren, potentially. An easy way of getting lots of creatures cast in a single turn. And yeah, I do feel like finding a gold creature somewhere in the mix is going to actually be kind of nice for him here, if he can achieve it without having to go too far out of his way.
Plumeveil? That's the gold creature.
I mean, another spider spawning, I think, will work out just fine for now. This is going to be a cool deck. I'm looking forward to seeing this deck in action. Sound off in the chat if there's any particular matchups based on the 3 different drafts that we'll have seen by the end of this that you are hoping to see these players. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a chance to revisit our feature table quite a bit. I mean, this feature table, a huge amount of talent on it. Even in addition to those that we've seen on camera, we've got a few other relatively big names all at this same table, all undefeated on day 1.
A 3rd spider spawning.
All right.
Is it going to be better than the 2nd looting?
I mean, this is a question because sooner or later you might not have enough creatures.
All right.
I mean, there's enough time though,
right? So now he wants all the creatures. He's not going to look at the spells anymore. Oh, and Buried Alive with the Vengevine.
Oh my. Oh my, what is happening here? Show me a creature. There's a Golgari brown scale. That seems like it might fit quite well in this deck, but Magus of the Bazaar also fills up the graveyard kind of nicely.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to splash blue for the Magus.
Oh, we could be going very deep indeed here, Raphael Levy.
I don't think that's going to happen, fortunately.
He's got a big smile on his face. Look at him there. Pascal knew. He knew when this photo was taken what was going to happen.
He just picked a rare. Of course he's happy.
All right, what do we have next?
Another 5-drop.
Yeah, I mean,
he already has one. Yeah, it's
Canker Abomination lurking at the back. One of those cards that it can be kind of high variance, but it is also a gold creature though, so it will be getting back Eidolons.
That's true. It's better than Plume Veil to get the Eidolons back.
I would say so.
So you can cast the Plume Veil off the Eidolons.
Miming Slime. That one not actually a creature, whereas Heap Doll, potentially an interesting sideboard card.
Yeah.
All right. With every pick, I'm just like, I'm literally on the edge of my seat. Here's a Basking Root Waller.
Are we living the dream? Turn one Faceless Looting into.
Is that even the dream?
That doesn't work. No, we need a.
I mean, turn one Faceless Looting, get rid of a few creatures, set up your combo a little bit.
Would be a turn 2 Vengevine, double Root Waller. We need double Faceless Looting. Or double Root Waller, Vengevine, and something else.
We're working on a plan. We're not quite sure what the plan is, but we're definitely working on a plan.
Yeah, his deck is sweet.
Yeah, just crush it a little bit, see what happens with that one.
I think Splashing Buried Alive is definitely an option.
It has potential. It definitely has potential.
I mean,
Splashing Megas of the Bazaar, that one we're not quite sure on.
I would probably actually first pick a second Buried Alive.
Really?
I mean,
it's a bold claim, but I can see where it comes from.
This is
three spider spawnings.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you're not.
And the thing is, you
rubbish in the graveyard.
You put creatures in the graveyard. That means you're gonna draw the lands. You have more chances to draw the lands to actually catch your spider spawning.
I mean, I wouldn't have minded getting that Golgari brown scale in that last pack. And it's not just because you love it. It's like, getting the first dredge card seems like it might be pretty decent in this deck. Buried Alive for 2 Eidolons and a Golgari brown scale.
Yeah, well, he has a lot of targets.
Then start discarding that brown scale to your Fauna Shaman every turn.
Gain 2 life a turn.
All right.
Man, this deck is nice.
Yeah, there is some synergy here. This is going to be a fiddly one to build, I think, potentially. Depending on exactly how deep Pascal wants to go on any of his non-green colors. Green is a mortal lock in terms of what's going on. Everything else is to what extent is it being splashed. And the Eidolons will help quite a bit on this.
I think he wants another Wayfinder. Yeah, Magus of the Bazaar on the back of the pile.
3 spider spawnings.
He's not onto the black plane. Doesn't look like it. Well, Heap Doll gets put in the front.
I mean, when you have the option of searching things up, then the utility on it goes up a little bit.
I mean, Heap Doll is not exactly the premium card you want to search.
I mean, the sort of the interaction between these hooting mandrills and these spider spawnings is potentially a little messy, but one way or another, there's power in them hills.
I don't know. He's not interested in the Buried Alive action. Oh well. I think he wants to be a little more straightforward and not having to play his Gadames Reach. I don't know. That might be his train of thought at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it still feels to me like he is Green X, and that even now, if he opens a really powerful card in pack 3, pretty much regardless of the colors, he has the option there.
Because this deck is not actually very fast. It does insane stuff at around like the mid game.
Yes.
It has a strong late game, but the beginning is not that fast.
Yeah, he needs to get a little bit more going in the early turns, just in order to be able to exploit the synergies that he has later on in this.
Like if he manages to pick up 1 or 2 wild mongrels,
oh yeah,
then that would shift the perspective of this deck. That would actually become an aggro deck. But for now, he's not going to put any pressure in the early game. All unless, of course, there's a Vengevine on turn 2, but that's...
Yeah, sometimes there's a Vengevine on turn 2.
Yeah, sometimes on turn 1, but not in this format. Yeah, I think Wild Mongrel would be the common of choice here.
How about turn 1 Mountain, turn 2 Forest, Wild Mongrel, discard, Anger, Vengevine, Root Waller. It only needs to discard one Root Waller. Yeah, just get it all going.
Yeah.
All he needs is 1 Wild Mongrel for that plan to be live, to be attacking for, 9 on turn 2? Eternal Witness.
Oh, that's pretty good. It's a very good combo with Thunder Shaman.
Golgari Brown Scale again.
And there's a lot of rares that fit this strategy well. Like would be good.
There's a lot of cards in this pack that have at various points been rare. You've got Leovold alongside Laboratory Maniac in this pack. Faith Fetters just sort of there for someone. But Eternal Witness seems pretty well suited to a lot of what he's got going on.
Yep.
Worth noting that you can't set up a loop with Vengeful Rebirth and Eternal Witness. Vengeful Rebirth does exile itself when you play it. But yeah, this is... Cool deck is cool. We just have yet to figure out quite how good it is. Another Faith's Fetters in this pack.
No Wild Mongrel. And this pack is just not very good for him.
Time for a cheeky Faith's Fetters, maybe? And it's not like he's giving up a huge amount of value by...
Yeah, there's nothing for him here.
He's already got a Sanatorium Skeleton, doesn't need another. It's not like he really needs any of these cards.
He might play the Face Fetters.
All right. Let's see if we can get back on track with this next pick. A Mongrel would be lovely, but there's...
Mongrel would probably be the best now. Like, that's all he wants.
I think there's probably a few other bits and pieces that you wouldn't mind, but Mongrel certainly seems like a good...
Yeah, he wouldn't mind. I mean, a second Vengevine would be great. But let's be realistic. Yeah.
Forbidden Alchemy.
Wow.
Pull to the front here. All of a sudden, we're in pack 3, and it's like he's drafting a different deck.
Yeah, that shifts the idea of the deck. Now he's considering Magus of the Bazaar, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He knows he won't see the early game, so he plans on the...
Yeah, let's just crush the late game.
Yeah. On the mid game / late game.
I mean, this is a deck that I'm definitely going to want to see in action, because there are lots of pieces to this puzzle, but actually assembling it may prove a little challenging.
I mean, the blue will be powerful in the late game for sure. Another Leovold.
Yeah, why not? Another Wickerbow Elder if you want to just go.
And Leovold is a gold card.
I mean, this is definitely true. And at this point, it's in all of his colors. Because he's in essentially all the colors.
He's going to splash for the spider spawning at least.
Gets another Iguana. Yeah, when you talk about the spider spawning deck, this is not necessarily what one might typically picture as being that deck, but you still do have the namesake card, and 3 of them. Another Lab Maniac sitting around there.
Oh wow, that's a good one. That's a good one. It's been a while. It's been a while since we got a...
Welcome back, buddy. Satyr Wayfinder doing pretty much everything that this deck needs.
Finding the 3rd or 4th color.
Just being a play on turn 2. Allowing you to get to that mid and late game and setting up the graveyard so that when you do, you've got a lot of options.
putting creatures and spider spawnings in the graveyard.
Oh, Rapture. It's where it's at. Urban Evolution looking on there. We've got a Mad Prophet. Don't mind that one too much.
Yeah, Mad Prophet's pretty good. It's in the colors.
Yeah. I mean, in the colors is a pretty broad term at this point.
I mean, he's more red than blue.
This is true. Yeah, the Mad Prophet, we've seen him do good work all weekend thus far, and that's thus far being just sealed deck. As you get into draft, things change a little bit. Decks become a touch more focused. Another Faithless Looting and another Vengeful Rebirth and an Ether Snipe that he's pulling up as well.
No, I think the looting is the pick here. You don't want to have a second Rebirth. His deck is already full of like late game cards. Looting would help him so much.
Oh, he's thinking about it.
Thinking, yeah.
Oh, baby, he's going big.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be one to watch. Vengeful Rebirth is a very powerful card if you can get to the point in time where you can reliably use it without just being stony dead. Groundskeeper.
Yeah, to find the swamp or the island you actually mill.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to get stuck not able to make the color. Phyrexian Altar, another way of making extra color, but
what I found with the Groundskeeper is that you draft it in case you are in that situation. You're like, yeah, just in case I mill my swamp or island, I want to be able to get it back, but it always ends up in the sideboard.
Lab Maniacs for days here. Pulse and Marassa.
Come on, you can't pass the lizard. Can't pass the brown scaler like a fifth time. I guess you can.
Turns out you can, and Pascal Viren has. I mean, having a little bit of dredge in this deck does not seem too bad at all.
You still need to, skip your draw phase.
Crushing Canopy, a solid sideboard card. Various interesting black cards here, though it's unclear quite how heavily black Pascal will be beyond the flashback on spider spawning. Oh, Raph, we have to get a round of watching this deck.
Oh, wow, another Mandrill.
Yeah, Mandrills is kind of like, it feels to me like the kind of, all right, fine, let's do the straightforward thing that just wins the game rather than the exciting thing.
That's all right. Would you actually play the 3 spawnings?
I don't know. It's a great question. There's another Eidolon here that I kind of like. At this stage in the game, I don't mind. Buried Alive for 3 Eidolon, then just cast your Canker Abomination, get them all back. So many Lab Maniacs. That's one that I've not been able to really get to work in a meaningful way in this format. It's a little bit harder to self-mill in this format than even in the likes of Innistrad where you were doing it the first time round. There's been a few Mere Servitors late. I wonder how many Mere Servitors one really needs before they actually get interesting.
I've never seen one in play in this format. I've yet to see one in play.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that if you see one, chances are you should see, 3, 4 of them maybe. And yeah, I'm in a similar boat. It's just not happened for me yet. But, someone somewhere is having a whale of a time, hopefully, with those Mere Servitors. As things stand, though, that is the end of our drafts for now. We will have some live match play for you here from Grand Prix Prague right after these messages.